At E3 Alliance, we work cradle to career. We don't believe that there is a single silver bullet that you can use to address just one factor in the education systems or processes to create the kinds of outcomes that we want for our society, for our community, for our future. We look at students from literally birth through early childhood, our pre-K through 12 system, their transitions into higher education or career, because some post-secondary training is required to reach a living wage in our community today. And then how is it that they start to transition into a workforce where they create that platform for our economic future? I get to think every day about the strategic direction, the activities that we're undertaking, the leverage that we can have in collaborating with stakeholders using objective data to create a platform for real systemic change. We believe that the regional platform is critical for systemic change. Why? It's small enough to act with a sense of urgency in an entrepreneurial fashion, but large enough to create scale. Our region consists of the 5-county metropolitan statistical area, about 1.7 million people. How is it that we use all of the players and institutions who can work together and have a common identity, commuting platform, economic development platform, but are close enough with one another to move with a sense of urgency and not be dependent on other parts of the state or the country? So by using that platform of an interdependent economic region, we're able to create change at scale quickly. For us, the process of systemic change all starts with the data. What does objective information say about not only what are the issues and what are the measures and ways that you understand the problem, but what are the leverage points for change? And looking at the measures and the leverage, we then build a common agenda by convening the right players at the table and understanding how we're going to use objective measures to undertake collective action. Then in doing so, we look at what practices need to change and ultimately how do we scale those into policy and systems changes. One of the things that we found at E3 Alliance is critically important to our work is this concept of action research, which really has to marry objective data with intuition and a sense of urgency and movement. A great example of this is last year our superintendents asked us to create a platform for sharing around, are we really serving students with the 21st century skills that they need in our high schools? We were able to use objective data on student growth to identify those high schools that really were achieving at unexpectedly high levels in particular areas of student outcomes, but then brought them to the table to say, what are the practices that you have, maybe you have data to show, maybe you don't, that you think are leading to the success of your students in these particular areas, and how do we share them with one another? We had 2/3 of all of the principals from our entire region in attendance and sharing for the first time across districts, across schools, what was really working for them and how they could replicate those practices. Engaging the business community around change is absolutely fundamental to our work. In fact, we haven't seen large-scale system change that didn't involve both education and other community and business sectors. For us, that means having leadership at the table who can help drive long-term institutional support and influence change. We like to say all the time that we have no structural authority over anyone. We're trying to create massive systemic change with no structural authority. How do we do that? It's by having the right people at the table and the best data. The tension between partner and push is a real one that we live every day. And in fact, many organizations that look at social change try to anchor themselves in one or the other. We've decided that it's important to embrace both. Certainly, we lead with partner. We hope that we can collaborate effectively with every stakeholder. We don't want a superintendent that we're working with to walk in one day and not know whether they're friend or enemy. On the other hand, we wouldn't be doing this work if we didn't think a lot of pushing was required, if we didn't think that we are not closing achievement gaps quickly enough, if we're not raising student outcomes quickly enough, if we're not preparing students for the 21st century global economy, then we have to push the system to change. The tricky thing about backbone organizations are, one, you have to be learning every single day, every moment of every day, because we are making this up as we go along and doing it across multiple sectors. Two, speaking multiple languages, because you have to be able to understand that often the languages of the different sectors that you work with are semantically very different, and you need to be able to relate and connect with all of them. Another skill is really not just understanding, but leveraging this sense of complexity. What we've done as backbone organizations is undertaken systemic change in an environment where we inherently have no structural or authority to tell any of our stakeholders what to do. That's a very complex environment to work in, and what it means is that we have to take advantage of that complexity and learn from it every day.